you start a business, it's going to be 5+ years of your life. If you're doing it the right way, you've got to enjoy it, or at least enjoy moments of it.
Yeah.
I think people have always been at the core of tech that I've been interested in. So, that idea that you put a website online and anybody can access it, and the way people access information was really interesting to me. A bit like signing the co-founder agreement once you're trying to get rid of one of the co-founders. It's too late by that point. You should have signed it when you're both really happy at the very beginning.
Yeah. Welcome back to a really special edition of Founder Stories with a founder that I've actually been chasing down for quite some time. Managed to pin him down for a lovely chat on the sofa this morning. It is Ed Johnson from a new startup called URoutine. So welcome, Ed. Thank you for making it over to talk to me on Founder Stories. It's lovely to have you.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So what I'll always do before I get into the fun stuff, I know people really just want to find out about you and your journey. But before we do that, let's talk about URoutine, because it's probably an application that people haven't necessarily heard of yet.
Yeah.
That is going to change. I absolutely loved finding out about URoutine and what you're building. So why don't we start off by telling everybody about your company and the problems that you solve?
Absolutely. So very early days. So the elevator pitch that I use now, I may well watch back in a couple of years and think, gosh, we're not doing quite the same as we are now.
For it.
We effectively are trying to help people with their routines, as the name suggests, and their habits and their goals through accountability. So that idea that what you say you're going to do versus what you actually end up doing can often be quite different. I think we all talk about the things that we want to be achieving. We want to, learn a language or get fitter or eat more healthily. But actually either we don't have the time, or it's usually not that we don't have the time, but we don't focus the time that we have on the things that we talk about doing. And when you start telling other people, it really puts that healthy peer pressure on you to deliver that. So we're looking at how we digitize that effectively, both for individuals and organizations.
That is a very good idea. And you are right. I don't know why, maybe you do, but I don't know why accountability is so powerful. If you look at people that have personal trainers, for instance, they are going into their training session 3 times a week, and they are doing things that they could absolutely do if they were on their own. Yep. Unless it's quite specialist. Most of the time, when you see people with a PT, they could have just picked up that dumbbell and done whatever they're doing. Yep. And that's the difference, is the accountability piece. And this is why, I suppose, like food tracking apps and things like that, I tend to lean towards more the fitness side because that's where my knowledge is. Yep. But you're right, that accountability is so powerful. So what a great idea to take something that is so powerful and build a product from it. How's it going?
Early days, so it's not without its challenges. We started this 9 months ago, so the technology is one of the challenges. Another challenge is convincing people that this isn't just another app. There are lots of habit tracking apps out there.
Yeah.
I think the big difference between what we're doing and most of the apps out there is the social side of things, the accountability. So I think with any startup, and I have experience of this from the last startup, it takes a while to get that elevator pitch right in a way that everybody else understands. Everybody gets what it is with one sentence. And so from experience, that just does take time. With the last company, it took the best part of 2 years to get to that point. And looking back, it was sort of, that's so obvious. Why didn't I think of that 2 years earlier? But it just takes time. So I think that's one of the challenges is how we talk about what we are delivering on. Mm-hmm. The technology, as I've mentioned, is the second challenge. And then the third one, which we're in less of a hurry about, which might sound counterintuitive, but is revenue, because we know that if we get the first piece right around the technology, then the revenue will follow. That's the theory. Is
that a lesson you think you've learned from having businesses before? Because that sounds like a method, a process that first-time founders don't tend to understand. They're very, very eager to make money. Is that something you've learned? And if so, did you learn it the hard way? I probably
did learn it the hard way. I think I'm probably more patient than I was before. I'm probably not more patient actually, but I'm more able to really understand that it just does take time to get to revenue and then to get from revenue to profit. I think the first time one starts a business, one often goes into it with a certain naivety and thinks, oh, well, in 6 months' time, I'll have X, Y, and Z revenue and clients, and this will be going on. And I think then once you've been there and done that, you know how much longer it takes. So I'm still just as impatient, but I can temper that impatience with the experience of that's just the way it is, however frustrating that might be.
Yeah, no, it's so right. And I think a lot of startups do fail that were probably could have been very, very good products. They probably had real hope. They ran out of money. So what would you recommend that first-time founders do to cushion themselves, as it were, to make sure that they can go through that process and take their time without having that unhealthy obsession with getting to revenue really quickly that can potentially see them, unfortunately, fall off the ladder?
Well, give yourself a longer runway than you think you need is the first thing I'd say, whether that's funding yourself or raising investment from whoever you're raising investment from. Allow yourself more time than you think it might take, because inevitably things will come up. There'll either be additional costs along the way, or there'll be delays along the way if it's a product, with product development. If it's technology, there'll be issues with the tech. There are just these things, these unknown quantities is inevitable. Roadblocks or challenges along the way. So giving yourself more time is really important. And that will hopefully cushion, as you say, that time to getting to revenue and getting to profitability. The second thing that I think is really important is just being so careful about how much money you're spending, and what it should be is how little money you're spending. It should be the target, and do question every single thing. So question the $5.99 subscription that you're paying for a piece of software. Question everything and think, could I do this without paying and spending a little bit more time on X, Y, and Z? That's
a good one. Like sweating the small stuff early on is a really good piece of advice. Probably something that I could have taken in the early days as well. I mean, I'm still in the early days of my business in the grand scheme of things, but I've only just recently done that exercise where I've gone through because I'm just one user on everything. Everything seems so damn cheap. It's like, it's 29 quid a month. It's nothing. So I built this amazing go-to-market tech stack and actually just evaluated it just recently and didn't need over 80% of it. So I think it's very tempting, isn't it? It's particularly when you've just got that investment to just spend. Totally. And often it's only the big purchases, like you say, that we question. So the $5.99s we just don't, and actually they can make a real difference when you put them all together, right?
Yeah, completely. They all add up very quickly. They're all on auto renewals, and it also sets a precedent. You say you're just one person, but actually that's how most businesses start, with one or two co-founders. And actually, if you set the standard when you are just one or two people and the business grows in terms of the number of people you then hire or the team expands, you set a standard that everybody else will follow. And that becomes far more manageable if you've set that standard at the beginning, rather than telling everybody you're going to get rid of their software when you've got a team of 50 people and they're all reliant on software to do their jobs. Whereas actually, if you've been really careful to begin with, that will follow through to the team as it expands.
I think everything should have a positive impact on your growth. And if the answer is no when you ask that question, you really need to question why you've got that. But there's so much technology right now. We tend to work backwards on this show. So this is the present day and what you're building now. I'm really interested to know kind of where you came from and what you were like at school and things like that. But before we do, let's just answer the burning question of what you did before URoutine. Because you've obviously built businesses before. So let's talk about previous companies that you've worked with.
Absolutely. So the last company was a company called Misfire, also a software company, primarily business-to-business software solution, helping organizations with mentoring. So helping them to set up their mentoring programs and everything that goes into that. So the application forms, the recruitment of mentors and mentees within an organization, matching them together, and then helping them to manage their mentoring relationships. So sending them reminders when it was time to schedule their next meeting or requesting feedback from them. And then giving organizations the data to really understand what the impact of those mentoring programs was. So was it employee engagement, retention? Was it around diversity and inclusion? What were the objectives that an organization had, and how could mentoring be proven to help those objectives?
Nice.
So that was the last company that was set up in 2018 by my same co-founder.
Right.
My co-founder Gabriel and I set that up in 2018, and then that was acquired in the summer of 2023 by private equity. And we stayed. Thank you. That was quite a journey, and we stayed with that business until the beginning of 2025.
Right.
So where we then dove straight into the next one.
Again, you have very good ideas, I think is your thing. It must be one of your MOs that you think of things and how to make money on things that they're just there for the taking, right? Like, mentor programs are so unregulated. I've worked in businesses that have had, there's no structure, there's no process to it. It's a nice thing, but it's so powerful, like the accountability thing. Mentoring can really make a difference. It's so impactful. And you've gone, oh, okay, well, how can we now monetize that? So it's really clever.
Well, I think the thing is that, so many people have so many great ideas and don't do anything with them. And I don't think mine are necessarily great ideas. I think mine are actually probably quite simple ideas. They're not shiny, exciting new technology in the way that everybody's jumping onto AI or wanting to build something groundbreaking. The fundamentals of the last business were effectively using the same technology that had been around for 20 plus years on dating apps and adapting that to mentor matching. So it wasn't, that it was it certainly wasn't that innovative, and it certainly wasn't groundbreaking in the technology, but it was a simple idea that gained traction because a lot of people needed it.
Yeah. So, and just like they need accountability, so you're kind of doing it again.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
So. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. We'll find out in time.
Yeah. Okay, Ed, so tell us about you. Like, where did you come from? What type of kid were you? Like, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I think my mother would describe me as always on the go, which was probably exhausting for her. I always wanted, I was always busy doing things. And at a very young age, I was captivated by and interested in technology. And I remember a neighbour of ours when I was sort of 7 or 8 years old. I grew up in Chiswick in London. A neighbour of ours was the CTO of Sky at the time, Chief Technical Officer for Sky, and he always used to sort of pass off his old laptops, and I got a laptop at a very young age and started teaching myself web design and programming and things.
Amazing.
And was fascinated by that. And I think what I was most interested in there was this idea that you could build something that was then online that anyone else in the rest of the world could access and see when I was young, and when technology of that sort was fairly new as well. And certainly as a child, it felt really novel. So I was fascinated by the internet and how you could put something online that anyone else in the world could access, and having a website made you seem really grown up when actually most local businesses didn't have websites at that point in time. I was just fascinated by that, and that passion and that interest grew. And then I started to teach others about web design and development. I was one of the first YouTube content partners. Right. So at the age of...
Oh, my children would love you.
I suppose I was an influencer before the word influencer existed. I had about 15 million views on YouTube.
Oh,
I had hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and created videos about Photoshop and web design and using Dreamweaver and creating your first sort of Hello World website between the age of 10 or 11 and 15, 16.
I feel like I'm on the couch with Mr. Beast. This is amazing. I didn't realise all this about you.
Sadly, there was not much money to be made in influencing at that point in time. But
long time in
there was a bit.
There.
But exactly. I jumped the gun on that. But it was exciting, and then it really went from there. And I was always interested in technology and my interest and hobby became something that actually was a skill that I could use as a career skill.
And did you have any real jobs
I
before
did.
you went into being a founder?
Yeah. I tweeted the CEO of a digital marketing agency when I was 17, when Twitter was in its infancy. And I don't think anyone had really tried this before. And I asked him for a job. I said, do you have any jobs or internships? He offered me an interview, not realizing I was 17. And then 2 days later asked me what my salary expectations were. And my CV had on it 3 years of freelance web design experience, which was technically true.
From 14 to 17.
Yeah, I should have been doing my revision for GCSEs, but in the end, it didn't matter as much as everyone told me it would.
Yeah.
And so I worked for a digital marketing agency for a year. Then I moved to working for a company that was acquired by Oracle. So I worked for Oracle for a year. I then worked for Zoopla in their digital marketing team. So I've had my sort of fair share of 9 to 5 jobs and a couple of smaller startups along the way as well. Yeah.
And you've gotten straight into work then from quite early education.
17.
You didn't do uni?
Didn't do uni.
No?
I've got 3 AS levels. So I've got the first half of A levels. I think those were 2 Ds and a U. So I don't put them on my CV. But yeah, I dropped out of school midway through my A levels and went straight into work.
Yeah. Fantastic. And what a great CTO as well to give you that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I think he's obviously seen something in you. He's obviously got a good eye for talent, and has said, I want a piece of that action, because it's hard for kids to get to be seen, and maybe the timing then was a bit easier, and they're less used to getting CVs delivered, and I think it's a really good lesson as well for people who are looking for the next opportunity. We're not saying lie on their CV, but actually just think about the things that you can do, and don't be too put into a box.
Yeah.
If you think you've got a skill and you can do something, you need to get it on there. You need to sell yourself. That's what you've done, isn't it? Is you've basically taken yourself out there and sold yourself. And it sounds to me, when you were chatting then, I was thinking, what really drives you? Is it technology and innovation, or is it that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, and it just happens to have taken you into foundership? What do you think?
I think it's people. I think people have always been at the core of tech that I've been interested in. So, that idea that you put a website online, anybody can access it, and the way people access information was really interesting to me. I think the work that I did at the companies that I worked for was in the marketing side of things. It was albeit digital marketing and development, but it was always, there was an end user there. And then when I look at the last business, Pushfar, which was the mentoring software company, that was certainly people powered technology, and the same with this. So I think how people react with and use technology is what fascinates me and interests me more than the technology itself, which is probably why I let my co-founder do all the development work while I go out and try and sell it and sell the vision and build the sort of product ideas behind it.
You do it very well. I was very bought in when we first spoke. I thought it was a fantastic idea, because I know how important accountability is, and I like I said at the start, I don't know why. I have no idea why if you write something down, it becomes, you have to do it. But that is a way of life. So I think it's a really interesting product. I'm interested in that gap, or that bridge rather, now between what sounds like some really big brands. So you've potentially been going down that route at one point into the very, very corporate space, and then you've ended up with a co-founder, probably in a room, building this mentor app. So I'm interested to know what clicked there.
I think I always wanted to start a business. I always had an entrepreneurial spark within me that was interested in doing that. And so there were sort of side projects that I'd be working on while I was working at all of these sort of 9 to 5 jobs. But I needed a salary, and that was the kind of best, or I needed money to live off, and that was the best way of finding that to begin with. And B, I was aware that I wanted real world experience. And so it wasn't a sort of overnight shift, but it was, well, what can I learn that will add value to what I will ultimately build, whatever that might be. And then actually, I didn't stay in any of those jobs for more than a year. I did a lot of job hopping. partly because I wanted that experience, but partly because I did get bored. So I'd start looking for other jobs and sort of feel like I'd soaked up as much information as I could in one job and was doing the same thing day in, day out. And I thought, right, time to move. So I did that a few times. But I think I always knew I wanted to start a business eventually. So that would happen in time.
It goes back to actually our first chat where we said about how to cushion yourself.
Yeah.
And actually staying in your job for a bit longer could be a way of doing that, particularly if you're going to bootstrap. Yeah. Actually, I'm working with two founders that both have full-time jobs at the moment and are literally building something fantastic by night.
Well, I did that. Yeah, I did that for the first 2 years with Pushfar.
Wow.
I had it was first a full-time job, then I moved it to being a sort of part-time contracted role for 3 days a week. And then, after the first 2 years, then thought, right, well, now I can take a salary and now I can do this full time. But it was 2 years. For the first 2 years, I was working elsewhere.
I think your story will be very inspirational to aspiring founders because you just simplify it, just like with your tech. You're very honest, you're very open, you are removing this stigma around moving from job to job. You've got to do what's right for you. You've got to do what's right for your career and for your own knowledge and everything else. There's a real stigma to say you've got to stay in every job 5 years. Yeah. I mean, why? Just great, stay in your job 5 years if you're having a wonderful time. Yeah. But if you're having a mare, then definitely don't, because that's 5 years of your life that you'll never get back. Yeah. So I'm completely with you on that one. I always, when people say, oh, I'm so miserable in my job, I'm like, just get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Find another job before you do that, though, right? Yeah. Don't jump right, and then go, oh, right, I need a new job. I would definitely try and find the next one first.
Yeah, good advice, Ed. Well done. But yeah, so I think I think it will be of great inspiration to those that are looking to follow a similar path. But I'm sure that it's not always been kind of roses and wonderful times. So tell us where the skeletons are on that journey. Like where were the potholes that you didn't see, and how did you deal with it?
There are a number of other businesses out there that I started between the age of 17 and 25 that just didn't go anywhere, or that just about got by and then just didn't take off in the way that the last venture did. So I started a business when I was 17 with a different co-founder, a chap called Peter, which was not dissimilar from Reddit, but it was a cross between Reddit and Twitter, but focused on topics. So you didn't follow people, you followed topics, and fairly simple concept. It sort of, it worked, it got some traction, but there were bugs along the way. We weren't really sure how to best market it, weren't really sure what the next steps were in terms of monetization, and so I learned a lot from that, from a marketing standpoint and a brand standpoint. Then there was another business which I co-founded with my brother called Temporary, which was a social app that got onto the top 100 app store charts and had something like 10,000 downloads within the first 24 hours. But the tech wasn't there, it crashed, and then we lost momentum, and that was that. And we just didn't have the funding, the investment to sort of push that forward or spend any more money on marketing it. So we had to sort of shut that down, which seemed like a very great shame at the time. But I sort of think actually that initial momentum again taught me about how you can build a spark that gains traction. And then a couple of other businesses that I've been involved with that just haven't delivered. But I think in each of those you learn lessons about either how to do things more efficiently or to do things with less money available. That I then put those lessons into Pushfar and made a success of that because of the failures of the previous ones.
So they were all just learning experiences for you, as opposed to. But at the time, I mean, now it's great. You're like, right, okay, I learned that from that one, that from that one, that from that. The lessons are amazing. Yeah, fantastic. Thank goodness those businesses fail. But at the time, horrible. I bet you were like
horrible at the time,
absolutely devastated. How did you deal with that?
It's that analogy. You just have to get back on the horse. Mm-hmm. You can spend a year thinking about what if I'd done this or what if I'd done that. But I think as an entrepreneur, the mindset is probably always, right, on to the next business, right? I've learned those lessons, got to start another venture, or I will eventually come up with another idea. So it's not dwelling on that too much. It's it's tough and it's sad, but I think in the same way that when you come to sell a business, people talk about losing their identity as part of that business, or selling a part of themselves that they spent so long building, and people describe their business as their baby. I think actually the key is not to get, it sounds sort of counterintuitive, but not to get too close to it on an emotive level.
Yeah, definitely.
It is a business, and it will either be a success or it won't. And there are lots of variables that go into that, and you've got to work as hard as you can. But don't become too emotionally attached to it that it then becomes too painful if it doesn't work out, or if you then do sell it.
Because you forget to celebrate then.
Yeah,
you just like
exactly. mourning the loss of it.
Yeah, so. It's a strange feeling, and actually it doesn't even have to be your business. I think if you become emotionally attached to any company that you work with,
totally.
And it becomes, the people there become like your family. You love the product so much, and that's why you sell it so well. I'm speaking from experience. When that business is then acquired, it's rough, very, very rough. Yeah. And it should be a happy day.
Yeah,
it's completely. Your big payday, guys. Yeah. And actually, I often, when that happens, I often don't feel that sorry for the founder, because they're the ones that have got the big payday. Yeah. I often feel sorry for the team that are taking it hard and don't have that have that plus side to it. Yeah. But do you think that mindset of just keep moving forward? There's that analogy from Rocky, which I just absolutely love. My son's a big boxer, and he says all the time. But that kind of analogy of, doesn't matter how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Yeah. Do you think that's an entrepreneurial thing, or do you think that's just a personality trait that some people have got? I'm seeing a lot of it on that couch. I'm not going to lie. But what do you think that's in most successful founders? Just that ability to just keep going? I
think it probably is, because I think most founders will have had failures along the way. I think most founders talk about failures and are still entrepreneurs and founders. So there must be part of that within an entrepreneur's personality. I think some entrepreneurs are better at that side of it than, but just in the same way that some entrepreneurs are better at selling and some entrepreneurs are better at sort of technical co-founding, and there'll be a spectrum there. But I think generally speaking, founders and entrepreneurs are quite good at coping with the punches along the way. That you just have to be. That's the nature of it, right? Yeah. And I think we tell ourselves that we wish it wasn't like that, but we probably quite enjoy that once the bruising's subsided.
Come on, and hit me again.
And we sort of think, well, I've made it through that. I've got the scars to show for it. I've proven that I can survive it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd definitely agree with that. I feel like that sometimes after a good kicking. I actually feel like I'm stronger.
Yeah, and afterwards. It's you wouldn't experience those those exciting highs if you didn't have the lows. Yeah. If you just won contract after contract after contract and everything was plain sailing,
boring.
You'd get bored, right? Yeah. At least I know.
Just go get a job then, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's the same.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you can log on at 9 a.m, log off at 5 p.m, and that would be that.
And everything goes well all day.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. You've mentioned co-founders quite a lot in this journey. Have you always had a buddy in these scenarios, and how has that gone?
Quite a lot of the time I've had a co-founder. Not always, but certainly with the last business and with URoutine. And
was that the same co-founder?
The same co-founder,
right,
Gabriel.
Okay.
Pluses and minuses along the way. I think the majority of the time, thank God I'm not on my own here.
Yes.
But when you're in a close working relationship, there will be stresses and strains and challenges along the way. I think that's just the nature of it. And again, you learn how to deal with it. I think when you're working so closely with somebody as a co-founder, it's not the same as a colleague relationship, because you're both building something and there's so many unknowns. Whether it's the first, second or fifth business, there'll always be many unknown quantities along the way. Yeah. If you don't get stressed by it or frustrated with one another, you're probably not doing something right. Ideally, it will be plain sailing and happy days every day. But I think you just need to work out each other's rhythm and try not to annoy each other too much, and really be grateful for what they add to what they add into the mix.
I suppose one thing that they add into the mix, though, is that ability to be the sounding board, or if you're going to get stressed out at somebody or be frustrated, then that's kind of what they're there for. They're the only other person in the room, literally. So I suppose it's always going to happen. What would you say to companies starting out where there's 2 or 3 of them, when and often you find that they come from different backgrounds as well. So you've got the techie, and then you've got like maybe the salesperson as well. So naturally, if you think about how that works in companies, products and sales are constantly colliding. So you're taking that and you're just intensifying it massively, and putting a whole like scoop of pressure in there for good measure. How would you think people are best dealing with those situations when they clash?
Well, I think there are 2 things that are really important when it comes to co-founders. I think the first one is that, and again, this might sound counterintuitive, but I think there should always be a more, at least on paper, a more senior co-founder, and that's usually the CEO. It's not that you're better in any stretch of the imagination, or that you are anything other than the one that has the ultimate responsibility. You may have the same shareholding, you may have the same percentages, but everybody knows who that CEO is, so that ultimately the buck stops with them and they have to take that full responsibility. Now, the second part to that I think is really important is then laying out those roles and responsibilities really clearly. The CEO should be saying, you're my co-founder and you're responsible for XYZ, and I'm the CEO and I'm responsible for XYZ. Have really clear roles and responsibilities, and most entrepreneurs, most co-founders won't do that in the early days.
No.
And I'm all for saying don't add process for process's sake, but I think actually it's really important that you have clear understanding of your own roles and responsibilities as a co-founder, and that fellow co-founders have the same, because it then means that you can have a really honest and direct and upfront conversation where you say, well, this needs to be done and this needs to be done and this hasn't been done, and I failed on this part and you failed on this part. You probably wouldn't want to say it like that to them, but you can have a conversation where they know that they're responsible for that and you know you're responsible for whatever it is you're responsible for. So I think those 2 things are really important. And I also think then that the CEO or the most senior co-founder has to really temper their relationship. And actually, there'll be times when they are really quite stressed, but they can't take it out on the other co-founders. They have to be the bigger person. And that's not easy to do either. But if you are the CEO, just like if you're a CEO and you're frustrated and you've got 20 employees and you want to sort of shout at them sometimes, you know you can't.
I suppose that's taking away that right to do that, because that person is then not as senior as you, and therefore you've kind of, by being the CEO, you've forfeited that right to just have a massive moan at them.
Yeah, totally.
Because, or in a way that's not structured anyway, in just like a ranty way, because you wouldn't do that to people, you wouldn't do that to your, to your C-suite. So why would you do that to your co-founder? So actually it's funny actually saying that. I think I do know some companies that do that at some point in the journey, but it's usually quite late, isn't it, that they start to define, okay, you do this, I'll do that.
It's usually when they need to, and actually if you can beat that point, if you
really good tip,
do that beforehand, then you probably won't feel like you need to do it.
You need to do it.
It's a bit like signing the co-founder agreement once you're trying to get rid of one of the co-founders. It's too late by that point. You should have signed it when you're both really happy at the very beginning. And I think those roles and responsibilities are really, really important.
Great
and everybody
tip.
has that clear understanding.
So we've come all the way back into today. So we've had a lovely trip down memory lane, hopefully, and found out more about you. I think it's absolutely so interesting, your kind of YouTube journey and everything else. I think it's great. But I'm interested to know kind of what's next for you. Obviously, URoutine's only 9 months old. It's a baby. It's not, as you call it, the fancy AI product that's going to get acquired in 12 months and disappear off the market. It sounds like you're in it for the long haul. So what is your kind of go-to-market strategy? What can we expect to see from URoutine?
Well, the focus at the moment for us is making sure the product is the best that it can be for the consumer market. That probably won't be the market that we generate revenue from, or at least our primary revenue channel. But it may well be longer term something that evolves. But we're focusing on the product. You can download the app now. It's completely free. The focus for next year, or for 2026, is to really work out what the revenue stream is. So there are a number of potential avenues we are looking at. One is workforce accountability, so licensing the technology into organizations. Another one is working with coaches and their clients. So coaches helping their clients to stay accountable in between the coaching sessions that they have with them. And then there are other avenues along the way as well. So focusing on where the revenue will come from is really the key thing for the next 12 months. But there's no point in doing that until the product's the way it should be. We've got 10,000 plus users on the app at the moment. That's growing, which is great.
10,000 already?
Yeah. Which is exciting. So it's a good start, solid base. And
get
we just
on there, guys. Download the app, URoutine, and it's going to change your life.
Absolutely.
Right? It's going to
hold you accountable. Those
goals that you've been having and talking about and chewing everyone's ear. And what a fantastic time of year to do it as well.
Perfect time
because we're going to have the turkey burners in abundance come January. Yeah. And they're all going to have fallen off and gone out of the gym by February. Yeah. So let's see if we can make a difference to those guys and get them in a routine.
Yeah.
That's really, and also I think it'd be great for sales teams. Yeah. Because the difference I've seen when I've had underperforming sales teams versus overperforming sales teams has been nothing to do with the tech that I've given to them or the things that I've given them to sell. It's been accountability. Yeah. So we can all set aside our call blocks and be as, as organized as we like, but you go hell for leather for the first couple of weeks, and then life happens and work happens and everything happens, and like you say, the excuses then start to come in. But the ones that are super disciplined are the ones that tend to be the most successful. So I'd definitely, whoever's doing your sales, I'd get them talking to some CROs and see whether they can inject a bit of accountability in the sales team. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the great things about URoutine is that you can copy routines that are working from other people. So, you could see what the top performing salespeople are doing or top performing person in any department is doing and go, well, actually, you've got a really good routine. Everybody else can copy that or copy elements of it that are working. I might need to cut this out of the podcast because I actually want to have this to myself and put it into my teams now. I don't want others to know about it. I want it to be a secret weapon for me. So you've got a B2C strategy currently. Yes. And so the future looks like it will become... That paves the way for B2B. And so will it tend to be free for consumers? Completely free for consumers. Yeah. The plan is that it will always be free for consumers. Yeah. What that does is it gives us a really strong test bed. It gives us a really strong brand where individuals go, actually, I really like using it as an individual, so I'd like to use it in an organization. I think what doesn't work is when an organization implements technology and the end users go, well, this is terrible. I don't like using this. We're going to spy you now, guys. Yeah. Whereas if it's working for individuals, then it's going to work for individuals within an organizational setting. Definitely. So I completely agree. And I was going to say what's next for you personally, but I suppose you're going to have your head buried in this thing for quite some time. What does that mean? Yeah. So it's probably a bit of a question that I maybe should ask you in a couple of years' time when you've got a few buyers maybe knocking on the door wanting to buy the product. Well, probably, but I think it's really important to have that work-life balance. I think I probably learned that the hard way with the last company. So I do have a routine that means that I'm getting up early. I'm learning French. I'm making sure I get my exercise in. I'm trying to do all the things that I have always wanted to. I'm writing a book as well. So I'm trying to make sure I do have time that isn't all work, although more of a challenge at the moment. Ed, are you using URoutine? I am indeed. I hope so. You can go and follow me. Yeah. Oh, you can follow each other. You can follow each other. Yeah. So you can follow me on there. I'm going to follow you on there and see how your book writing is going. What are you writing a book about? Well, I won't reveal too much about it, but it's a romantic fiction. Nice. About 250 pages I've written, and I'm doing the sort of edits at the moment. But it's just from half an hour of writing a day, even on the days where I really don't feel like it, or the words are not coming to me. Because it's in URoutine, I can tick it off each day and I know it's there and I've just got to spend that time, and it's allowed me to do that in a way that I've always wanted to and haven't previously been able to. So that's the way it's done, isn't it? We don't start with the goal. The goal is to write a book, park that. The goal is to spend half an hour a day writing. 30 minutes of writing. And that will eventually lead you to a book.
I've written.
And that's the thing, our goals are too big.
Yeah.
You know, we want to lose 3 stone, we want to lift 100 kilos or whatever. It's like, whoa. Yeah. But actually, if it's like, well, I want to lift, 2.5 kilos a month, so much more achievable, right? And that's what you're helping people to kind of monitor and move through. So eventually they'll hit their goals. So you are actually a walking, talking version of URoutine success.
There we go. I sort of had to be though, I suppose. But
If you were terrible and you were just like running around like a blue arse fly every day, then it would be like, come on.
Sort of had to, but it does work. It does work. And there have already been, sort of 3 or 4 months into the consumer-facing app, we've already seen success stories there, which is great.
Do people upload their success stories on there? Do people tell you kind of things that they've achieved?
Every time you're ticking it off, you then can add a photo, you can add updates, so you can see what people are,
it's going to be very cool.
What people are doing, which is really cool.
Ed, I can't let you go without asking you for some words of wisdom, because you've got so much wisdom when it comes to this kind of stuff. And you've already given us a couple of nuggets as well, things to watch out for. I mean, the whole kind of the roles and responsibilities early on, absolute gem of a tip. But what else can you give to us in the founder community, and of kind of, your top tips for founders out there? What are the things that you maybe wish you would have known before that you know now?
Oh gosh. It sounds like such a cliche, but don't believe the hype around entrepreneurship that you see on social media. It's never the plain sailing, millionaire overnight story that you read about. So go into it with open eyes, expecting it to be hard work, because it is a lot of hard work. And talk to founders who've been there and done that, and soak up as much knowledge as you can from them. I feel like that's not really that wise. I think everybody talks about that.
As advice goes, I think that's about the best. But the thing is, we all know that, and yet we do it anyway. Yeah. We're all sucked in by it anyway. It makes us feel terrible. It makes us feel as though we're failing at something that everyone else is smashing through. So that is a brilliant reminder. And teamed up with don't spend too much money.
Don't spend too much money. And then enjoy it as well. It's your life, and if you start a business, it's going to be 5+ years of your life, if you're doing it the right way. And so don't, you've got to enjoy it, or at least enjoy moments of it. So make sure you do stop and enjoy moments of it when you sign a big contract, and
allow yourself the wins.
Totally.
Definitely.
And always reflect on, well, where were we 6 months ago? Because if you measure yourself against where you were yesterday, you'll probably get quite depressed quite quickly. At least I know I will. I'll think, oh God, we haven't made enough progress. I'm impatient. But actually, if you do even just take a step back 3 months, usually things move so quickly in startups and for founders, that actually every now and then, if you feel like you're not making enough progress, just stop and reflect. You'll probably be quite pleasantly surprised at how much you've actually achieved.
Yeah. Well, I think I've had an amazing time talking to you. I think this will be an episode that people will absolutely love and take so much from. And everybody needs to download the app.
Absolutely.
URoutine. They can follow you on LinkedIn. You're very active on LinkedIn. Or they can follow you on the app and see how the French is going and how the book is going. Then we can all buy the book.
Absolutely.
So you have to write it now, because everyone wants to buy it.
Well, it's written. I'm just doing the edits now.
Okay, well, just missed in time for Christmas, but maybe for Valentine's Day, as soon as it's a romantic novel. But yeah, what a great episode. Thank you so much, Ed, for finally coming to join me. We made it in the end, and we wish you the best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Pleasure. And soak up as much knowledge as you can from them. I feel like that's not really that wise. I think everybody talks about that. As advice
goes, I think that's about the best. But the thing is, we all know that, and yet we do it anyway. We're all sucked in by it anyway. It makes us feel terrible. It makes us feel as though we're failing at something that everyone else is smashing through. So that is a brilliant reminder. And teamed up with don't spend too much money.
Don't spend too much money. And then enjoy it as well. It's your life, and if you start a business, it's going to be 5+ years of your life, if you're doing it the right way. And so don't, you've got to enjoy it, or at least enjoy moments of it. So make sure you do stop and enjoy moments of it when you sign a big contract, and
allow yourself the wins.
Totally.
Definitely.
And always reflect on, well, where were we 6 months ago? Because if you measure yourself against where you were yesterday, you'll probably get quite depressed quite quickly. At least I know I will. I'll think, oh God, we haven't made enough progress. I'm impatient. But actually, if you do even just take a step back 3 months, usually things move so quickly in startups and for founders that actually every now and then, if you feel like you're not making enough progress, just stop and reflect. You'll probably be quite pleasantly surprised at how much you've actually achieved.
Yeah. Well, I think I've had an amazing time talking to you. I think this will be an episode that people will absolutely love and take so much from. And everybody needs to download the app.
Absolutely.
URoutine. They can follow you on LinkedIn. You're very active on LinkedIn. Or they can follow you on the app and see how the French is going and how the book is going. Then we can all buy the book.
Absolutely.
So you have to write it now because everyone wants to buy it.
Well, it's written. I'm just doing the edits now.
Okay, well, just missed in time for Christmas, but maybe for Valentine's Day as soon as it's a romantic novel. But yeah, what a great episode. Thank you so much, Ed, for finally coming to join me. We made it in the end, and we wish you the best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.